Well, hello everyone out there in the Head Couch Analyst Show, where the birds fly free and the couch analysts think they know what they're talking about. I'm your host, Mr. Sanders over here, and I wanted to tell you guys a couple things about how this season of the show is going to work. This is our fourth year doing it, and I can no longer be saying our because I have my first announcement for you guys. Pardue, unfortunately, will not be a mainstay of the show this year. Don't worry, nothing happened between he and I. He and I are still good friends. I actually plan on seeing him sometime next year, visiting him in Ohio, but he moved to Ohio. He now has a graveyard shift job, and I'm a teacher. So right when I'm done with my job and I want to record content, he's getting up for work, going to work, and by the time he goes to, gets home from work, wants to go to bed, or wants to record content, I'm getting up and going to school. So I'll be the one who's doing the mainstay of the show. However, what this does mean for the direction of the show is that I'm going to be having a lot more guests. The whole point of this show and our whole niche was that we are the head couch analysts, right? So, we want to bring other people who are couch analysts just like us, but also people that are really into sports. So we'll be having some people who um, create their own content. Like I've had Nick Fantasy on here before. I had Kathleen Fitzgerald, who was part of ArizonaCentral.com, on here last year. She now works for the Buffalo Bills, though. It'd be really cool to get her on to talk about the Bills if I could. That might happen. Um, stuff like that. So it'll still be the amateur content. It'll just be more focused on like what I have to say. Episodes will be shorter. Instead of being like 90 minutes, they'll usually be like 30 to 40. Except when I have guests, those will still be like an hour to an hour and a half. And last thing is um, I got a camcorder, like a face cam for not a camcorder, a face cam that I can put on the top of my computer. So I'll probably be doing more content where I will be talking to you guys, and it won't be so vague with just pictures and an audio recording. So look for that to come up. Speaking of having amateurs on here and people who do stuff in the football world, my two guests here, one of them actually just got a brand new job writing for a website for the Arizona Cardinals, so I should introduce her. Jackie, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good, Sanders. How are you? Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm really excited about being able to write about the Cardinals, and I'm glad to be jumping on with you. You're probably one of my favorite, like, non-Cardinal fans, so happy to be here.
I love how she put that. My favorite non-Cardinal fans.
Yeah.
It's fun. You know what? Party still maintains that I'm a closeted Cardinal fan because I look forward to going to Cardinals games every year. I have one Cardinals jersey in my closet, but that's like the Cardinals jersey is like right next to like five Ravens jerseys, so like it evens out, right?
hmm
Yeah, and the other one guy we got is Mac Fiend over here. Mac Fiend, my bad. Fiend or AZ Fiend. I totally screwed up his name. Mac, what's up?
Yep. Yo, yo. Yeah, it's a third of the Redbird Red Zone podcast with Jackie. Thanks for having us on again. I am also going to be doing weekly fantasy football coverage, all about the Cardinals, with the Fantasy Football Network this year. So you can find me. They're mostly on Instagram, but I'll be posting some stuff on Twitter as well. But yeah, back again, and that's AZ Sports Fiend. Come on, man.
AZ Sports Fiend. That's what it is. There we go. Quick thing because I want to plug you guys in. You guys have your first episode coming out this Thursday, right? For the Redbird Red Zone
Oh,
podcast.
hopefully Thursday, maybe Friday. Just depends on when Bobby can edit it.
Possibly Saturday.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, look for their episode to be coming out because this one will obviously have come out before then. So if you want to get your taste of Arizona Cardinals content, because I know a lot of the people who follow Mac and Jackie are going to be listening to this, we got you here. Except we're going to be covering the entire NFC West tonight. It's not going to be just the Cardinals. We'll be talking about the entire NFC West tonight. We're going to be talking about where we see the teams at, how they're standing, such and such. We won't go like too in depth about how the record's going to go or not. We're just looking at how the division looks, who we think is going to win, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let's start with the team that I'm assuming all three of us and probably most of the general population believes is going to finish last in this division, which is the Seattle Seahawks. So some positives for them. They still have Pete Carroll, and Pete Carroll's still coaching, so that's a good thing. They locked in DK Metcalf for the next 3 years, so that's still good for them. And I mean, I guess they still have a safety that can get sacks. I'm not trying to be like I'm not trying to be a couch analyst about this here. Like even though that's the title of the show, it's just like when you look at Seattle, I don't see a lot of positivity for them. Like they traded, Russell Wilson away for Drew Lock, a player a couple picks, and I actually really like Noah Fant. Like, I'm a big Noah Fant fan, so I think they got a weapon in Noah Fant, and he works with Drew Lock, so I thought that makes sense. But however, they just announced like a few days ago that Noah Fant's, not Noah Fant, Drew Lock is not the starter, so that connection doesn't matter anymore. And I'm sitting here like, okay, you traded away your franchise quarterback for you to just start your backup quarterback who was backing up Russell Wilson in the first place. What is going on? Doesn't make any sense to me. So let's get into the negative. Drew Lock and Geno Smith are their quarterbacks. There's that. Tyler Lockett is still pretty good, but they don't have anybody behind Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf that I can think of at the moment. That's not someone who like is up and coming, right? Obviously, someone can prove us different or prove us wrong, right? But there's nobody that like you look at the roster and you're like that person right there. I feel like their three main pass catchers are going to be Noah Fant, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett.
Rashad Penny or whoever their running back is at the moment.
Yeah, and then Chris Carson retired from football. So, there's just a lot like not happening for Seattle. So there's their outlook. How do we think they're going to do this season? Let's start with you, Mac.
I mean, when you get rid of, a Hall of Fame linebacker and Bobby Wagner and then a Hall of Fame quarterback and Russell Wilson, you don't really replace them with anybody. It's kind of pretty obvious what they're doing. They're looking forward to next year's quarterback draft. So they're willing to take their bumps with, those two quarterbacks this year, and in anticipation of, a highly touted quarterback class coming out. So, I mean, they do have, like you said, their wide receivers beyond the top two. Their depth drops off. Marquise Goodwin is your number 3. I don't think he's had more than like 20 catches the last couple of years. And I really like Rashad Penny. And, they have a running back, too, that they drafted in Kenneth Walker, who is going to be a stud, I think. But he's dealing with an injury, and they're going to be taking it, sounds like, week to week. So I wouldn't expect much from him. But I think if you actually get a good quarterback in there are some pieces to work with. I just find it funny that they actually seem to go out and use some of their assets, especially in the draft, on offensive line, the year Russell Wilson leaves. So, but yeah, they're definitely building for the future. I think there are worse teams out there roster construction wise outside of the quarterback position in the NFL, but that quarterback position is gonna, it's gonna handcuff them from winning too many games this year.
Jackie?
Is it my turn?
Okay, I was just gonna let you go.
Okay, I'm like, I didn't know if you were gonna be like, okay, Jackie, tell us what you think. No. So yeah, it's gonna be really interesting because Seattle has always been like a dynasty team of sorts, pretty dominant in the division ever since their Super Bowl run. But with the whole quarterback situation, like, yeah, they could have probably maybe targeted Baker or some other people this offseason. I know Jimmy G had been floating around, but I didn't think San Francisco was gonna trade in the division. But if you look at next year's quarterback draft class, it's a lot better than this previous draft. So I think that's where they're going with that as far as the QB situation. So I'd say this is more of like a rebuild, maybe tank sort of year. But I think if Pete Carroll somehow manages to win a few games and put them out of position for a good quarterback, they should totally fire him. That's my hot take.
Amen.
Yeah,
Totally
you're setting
fire
yourself
him
up for like a good young rookie quarterback. Like, don't screw this up.
Could you imagine, like, hey, you got us to 9-8, like, you did a great coaching job.
I mean, how many years does he realistically have anyways in the league?
If I remember, I'm gonna look it up. So if you're keyboard tapping, I'm sorry to the audience, but I believe he's 71. Oh, 70. I was off by 1 year. He's 70 years old right now. He doesn't look 70 though.
5 years max. After 75, what the hell are you doing?
Like he just doesn't look 70 though. And you guys saw the video of him playing like quarterback a little bit at training camp, right?
Unless you look at it as
Yeah, and I
Skechers.
said that they let Grandpa out of the home. Filter
Grandpa
alert.
out of the. All I'm saying is like he looks pretty mobile. I'm just saying my grandfather's 71. He cannot move like Pete Carroll like at all. Like he could never.
Damn,
So
your grandpa's 71. My
Yeah.
dad's 70 right now.
is he? Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean my parents had me young, so like really like senior year of high school young.
I was gonna say, how old are you? 18.
I'm 26, bro.
There you go.
Anyway, so I got a couple things that I want to talk about how I feel like Seattle's gonna do.
Yeah.
We'll see what you guys think of it. If you guys are listening, if you want to comment on it, that's totally cool with me. But first thing, I'm just gonna throw out like a couple bold predictions for you, okay? And I'm gonna do this with each team. For Seattle, first one. I don't believe in Drew Lock or Geno Smith, right?
Right.
So they are 100% going to finish dead last in total passing yards. My logic for this isn't just that they have two quarterbacks who like can't really play. My logic is that, and it's not that they can't play. Like I used to be a Drew Luck fan, not so much anymore. And Geno Smith had the hearts of America last, I think, Sunday on a Sunday night game or whatever, when everybody wanted Seattle to win that one game. I don't even remember who they were playing. Either way,
I don't remember. It was cute though.
they were 23rd in passing with Russell Wilson. 23rd. Change that to 32nd because they don't have Russell Wilson. They have Geno Smith and Drew Lock. That's my reasoning why. If they were 23rd with Russell Wilson, they're going to be 32nd with those two guys.
Yeah, Russell Wilson missed some games, but yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to be up there. The Browns are going to be awful in that category.
Mm-hmm.
You got Watson missing for however long. And then I think, yeah, Trevor Lawrence should take a step. I'm trying to think who else. Houston. Davis Mills has actually looked pretty good last year, so I think he'll finish higher with more passing yards. So, yeah, I mean, you definitely make a case. And there are a lot of good quarterbacks out there in the NFL. If you don't have a good quarterback, or if you don't have even a decent quarterback, you're dealing with two backup type quarterbacks. So, yeah, you're bound to definitely be down by 30, 31, 32, no doubt about it.
Yep. And my other prediction for them, and you guys are probably going to argue with me on this one, because the NFC West, I feel like there's three divisions in the league that have like just stupid in-division mashups, and that's the NFC West, the AFC North, and the NFC North. Like all three of those divisions just have some really dumb divisional games where like just like stupid stuff happens.
Yeah.
Like the Packers versus the Lions always is close for I don't know what reason.
Mhm.
Like those games should never be close and they always are. And it takes like a Rodgers Hail Mary
To win.
off of a foul face mask call. Right? If you remember, it was just the pinky that hit like Rodgers' face mask when they made that call. It was ridiculous. But I guess
Yeah, they play each other so often,
yeah.
They know each other's tendencies so well.
Or like Dalvin Cook rushing for like 220 yards against the Packers run defense that was stopping everybody that year. Like unreal kind of things that always happen, right? Or I think it was the one where like Khalil Mack was traded to the Bears and he got a pick six on Rodgers and they were ahead 20-3 at the end of the first half. And then Rodgers was hurt and he came out all hobbled, right? And then there was that pass to Randall Cobb down the middle for like 50 something yards that ended the game 23-20. Just like the NFC North has dumb stuff. Obviously, the AFC North has Steelers Ravens, which is always a classic. Steelers Bengals actually usually ends up being a classic, but usually like a dirty game classic because in the past the Bengals defense has been dirty, and for whatever reason the Browns always play their opponents close in the division. I don't know why. Getting to the NFC West, which is where I'm gonna get my take, right? They've had some really dumb ones too, like your guys' 6-6 tie on Monday Night
The
Football.
kicker debacle. Oh my
Yes. Or I think it was not last year, 2 years ago. I think it was the 2020 year where the Seahawks came here, I believe.
Overtime game.
Yeah, the overtime game where you played Isaiah Sims for like 4 snaps and he got the interception or whatever.
Interception, yeah.
Yeah, like
yeah.
that was a crazy ass game, right?
So is this your long-winded way of saying that you think Seattle's going to beat us at least once this year?
Nope. Nope.
Okay.
This is my long-winded way of like talking about how crazy like division is, and so my crazy thing for the division is Seattle doesn't win a single fucking game against the division this
In the
week.
division,
Yeah,
I
you're
like
just
it.
not
I
gonna win a
like
single
it.
game in
I
the
love it.
division. Like, but here's the
I
thing
like it.
though, stupid things always happen. So like, if you look at Seattle, I feel like naturally they shouldn't win a game in the division, and I'm gonna stick with that. But it's bound
I
to
love it.
happen. They're gonna take a game off somebody, right? Or maybe
The
two.
defense will hold
It's
them.
gonna be San
Yeah.
Francisco.
What?
It's gonna be San Francisco. They'll win one against San Francisco. That's the only divisional
Against
game.
Trey
They'll win.
Lance.
You
Yeah.
know they're
Against
gonna
Trey
they're,
Lance.
they're gonna play the 49ers twice. The first time against Trey Lance, and the second time they'll lose to Jimmy G.
Uh,
Yes.
Yes. All right, so we're actually on board with the fact I'm saying they're gonna go winless in the division.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
They're not going to be a very good, team with that with those quarterbacks. It's the worst quarterback room in the league. It definitely with how tough the other three teams are. It is going to be a battle uphill for them to even fit. Make it a one-score game versus any of these teams.
And here's
Even
my.
though,
Go
oh yeah,
ahead.
you're good.
No,
No, I was
keep
just gonna
going.
say, even though, like you said, that the divisions are so tight, everyone knows each other so well. But yeah, no, I think that's a good take. I like it.
The other thing too is like not only does their offense look miserable, but their defense is really young. Like I think their defense could be good in a couple of
Uh-huh.
years, especially if Pete Carroll's still coaching in a couple of years. I think their defense will be really good. But like they have a young defense right now, and literally L.A., San Francisco, and Arizona all have like firepower offenses, and I just see them getting shredded completely by all three of those teams. So like you know, like every single like roster that's not the Seahawks in this division has something I really like on offense. Whether it's like the run game in Debo Samuel and San Francisco, and if Trey Lance's potential works out, there's that. Obviously, you have like Kyler Murray with like Ertz, Brown, Hopkins when he comes back, Rondale Moore. Like, there's just a lot of speed on this offense. And then you have, the Rams are the Rams, and they have Cooper Kupp, the best wide receiver in the league right now. Like, what's not to like about that? And they just signed Allen Robinson. Like, good luck to the Seahawks defense playing those games. That's how I feel about that.
Yeah. Rest in peace to the Seahawks defense.
Alrighty, cool. Any last comments on Seattle before we move on to the next one?
Sucks to suck. That's my comment.
I like it.
I
That's good.
I don't just like it. I love it. Moving on to the San Francisco 49ers. So positives going for them. This roster is stacked. And it's not just stacked. It's stacked with star power between like George Kittle, Nick Bosa, Debo Samuel. I mean, Kyle Shanahan, I would call a name on here as well because his offenses are always just unique and they get people like RG3 and Kirk Cousins going. Right? I actually don't think Kirk Cousins is bad, but that's like a whole nother story. He had a great year last year, 37 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. But like Kyle Shanahan has always found a way to like take mediocrity like Jimmy G, and I will say Kirk Cousins was mediocre when he was a Redskin at the time, now Commander, and made them look good, right? And so
Yeah.
he'll work with Trey Lance, right? I think he'll maximize Trey Lance. How good Trey Lance is going to be individually, I don't know. But I think Shanahan will work the best way that he can, especially since he went into this offseason knowing Shanahan is my quarterback. They did sign some insurance, though. That's another positive. Jimmy G is still on the roster, so if Trey Lance doesn't work and they're like, hey, we have a Super Bowl roster and we went to the NFC Championship with Jimmy, we're going to do that again, right? Especially if like someone like the Rams or the Bucks lose their step, right? Like Lord forgiving that like Tom Brady finally meet Father Time or something like that in the NFC, or the Cardinals have a second half collapse again, or Aaron Rodgers like goes full hippie and quits football, or some shit like that, you know.
Some Ricky Williams shit.
Yeah, so there'll be some Ricky Williams. There's the no. I actually have a Ricky Williams jersey. Just fun fact. Ayo, but yeah, so like there's a lot to like about like this 49ers roster from like an objective standpoint. Their offensive line's pretty good as well. Their lines are just nasty in general. Some negatives about the 49ers. I said Trey Lance has potential. We have not seen that potential. So the negative is that Trey Lance is their starting quarterback as of right now. This could change 3 to 4 weeks from now, right? Like they could start 4-0. Trey Lance could go on a tear that, we haven't seen or whatever, but like I don't anticipate that. There's just a lot of unknown, right? And maybe that's not so much of
Right.
a negative as it's as you could just phrase it as a not positive. Um, Again, they don't have a workhorse running back. Of course, they haven't needed that for a while because Kyle Shanahan knows how to utilize his offense, and that's just how they work. They're a running back by committee. But, like, you never really know who's popping off that day or if anybody's popping off that day. I also really don't believe they should be using Deebo Samuel as much as a running back anymore now that he's signed to a long-term deal. My opinion, we'll see what happens there. Um, when it comes to the 49ers secondary, not that great on paper. It's fine. It's fine. Like, that's probably the weakest spot of their defense, though. So,
Mhm.
if it turns out that the secondary is better than I'm thinking right now, fine. But if it's worse than I'm thinking, and I'm already placing them at like average, right? Again, I talked about the offenses in this division, them being the fact that they're going to face, the Rams and the Cardinals, isn't that great. And if I remember correctly, the NFC West in general has one of the worst schedules because you guys are playing the AFC West. So that means you're going to be playing against Derek Carr and Devontae Adams. You're going to be playing against Patrick Mahomes and his offense. You're going to be playing against Russell Wilson and that loaded wide receiver core in Denver. Like, it's just not. And then you're playing against Justin Herbert, too. Like, it's just not a good time to have a bad secondary, and I feel like they're going to get shredded if they're as average as I think they are. Right, so that's the only other bad thing. If somebody who's a 49ers fan out there wants to argue with me, they can. I'm willing to be wrong here, but just when I looked at their secondary, I'm like, their secondary's fine. Like, it's not bad, it's just not good either. And with the schedule that they have what, maybe the Panthers and the Falcons. Not even the Dolphins. Like, Tyreek Hill's on that team. Like, okay, and the Commanders. Like, there's not very often where they're going to get a break in that secondary. So, yeah. Overall thoughts on the 49ers. Let's start with you, Jackie, this time.
So the 49ers is going to be very interesting. Like I've always said, like it's, the way the division's going to go is what trouble is the 49ers going to give the Cardinals. But I feel like they're going to die on this Trey Lance hill. I don't think they're all in on him. I think they kind of have to be now because it's year 2 of Trey Lance and they've named him the starter. But they've kind of made it publicly known that they don't necessarily believe in him because they've signed Jimmy G to this very expensive insurance plan. So my hot take is that if Trey Lance starts 0-3, they will pull him for Jimmy Garoppolo. But what?
I'd love to see it.
Yeah, no, you're right. I would love to see it. I mean, the few plays I've seen of Trey Lance, I mean, yes, he can run, and he's good for maybe like 175-yard deep ball, but other than that, it's nothing that moves me. So he's not somebody that I take in account for giving us problems. But this could be a very cold take because I've had these in the past. Defense is meh. Offense, I'm like, yeah, they've got a decent run game. They just paid Deebo Samuel, so we'll see where that goes. But their coaching has been stellar. I mean, that was a team last year that didn't start off very good. They were kind of in shambles. They were calling for Shanahan's job, and look how they finished. It's not about how you start; it's about how you finish.
Yeah, and like Sanders was talking about the 49ers secondary, it was fairly weak last year. They gave up the 4th most deep passing yards in the league, and then had the league worst completion percentage over expectation and led the league in defensive pass interference
I was going to
penalties
say,
as
fun
well.
fact, they had 22 pass interferences last year.
Yeah, and already their starting free safety Jimmy Ward is on IR. He's going to be missing the first 4 games, it looks like, at least. They did sign Charvarius Ward from the Chiefs to come in as a cornerback, so that's something to keep an eye on, see how he meshes there. But I do think their offensive line, though, there's vulnerability there. They lost their left guard, went to the Jets. Alex Mack, their center, retired. Their starting right guard last year looks like he's been battling up for a job, and on the depth chart right now, their left guard, center, and starting right guard currently have a combined 3 starts under their belts. So that's something to keep an eye on for sure, especially if you got a young quarterback back there in Trey Lance. So I don't think it's all gravy. And, I think their depth at wide receiver, if something happens to Debo, I can see how they'd be kind of screwed fairly quickly. So there are holes in this roster, in my opinion. And then when you have a young quarterback and you don't 100% believe in him, and you have to bring back the starter from last year and guy who's had wins under his belt, like Jackie said, if they do go 0-2, 0-3, 1-4, when are all the fans and even players in the locker room going to start looking over Trey Lance's shoulder and see Jimmy G just sitting there? So I think I don't think it's a given that this team is going to exceed expectations like they did last year. There's a whole locker room stigma thing that can carry a lot of weight in an NFL locker room, depending on who your leaders are in that locker room. So, but never know. But the interior offensive line is something that, as a Cardinal fan, I'm kind of hoping to see what J.J. Watt and some guys, what Vance Joseph can create pressure wise up the middle on that interior offensive line, because that looks like a weakness right now in my eyes until we see them produce at an NFL level, which we just haven't yet. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, no, they could be their own worst enemy for sure, and I hope we can exploit that offensive line.
Yeah, I'd have to say, like, the biggest thing about, like, at least, like, how do I phrase this? Because I don't want to sound, like, too uneducated on the 49ers. Their defense will be the reason they win games. Like, Jimmy Ward is back there, and Jimmy Ward's solid, right? You have Fred Warner, who's legendary, Nick Bosa, who's legendary. Like, this defensive line in the middle of the field is really good, and I feel like you need to burn them on the outside to beat them, which, like I said, their schedule says will happen to them. But overall, I'm not, like, discounting the 49ers either. Like, you look at it, and it's just like they went to the Super Bowl 3 years ago. They went to the NFC Championship, had a 10-point lead in the NFC Championship at one point before blowing it. Because, Jimmy G is...
Jimmy G.
Jimmy G, yeah, there you go. Jimmy G is just Jimmy G. Like, he's not going to win a game for you. But he's usually not going to lose a game for you either. He's just there. He's solid, not great. They're putting their coins into essentially a rookie, right? Like, essentially.
Right.
And it's his
Like,
second year.
Like, die on the Trey Lance Hill.
Yeah, that's fine. That's what you were saying earlier. So I think it's fine. And so here's my quote-unquote bold predictions for you. And this first prediction I think is bold because no one is saying this about the 49ers. I think everybody's thinking they're going to get like 13 wins and Trey Lance will pop off, or they're going to get like 4 wins and Trey Lance will suck, right?
Right.
I'm going to gamble that Jimmy G doesn't play a game unless Trey Lance gets hurt, because Trey Lance is going to play well enough to start all 16 games, but not play well enough to win everything. And I got them going like 9-8 because of that. He will have an okay season, and it won't be enough to bench him, but it won't be good enough to get them anywhere near the playoffs.
We'll see, because I know a lot of stuff I've been researching since you asked us to join. Kind of just looking at what a lot of their beat reporters are saying, and a lot of them are talking championship in the locker room. Even coming out of huddles, they say 1, 2, 3 championship. And a lot of them are just seem to be narrowly focused on that one goal. So if Trey Lance shows to be a 500 QB right out the gates, and they got Jimmy G there, I wouldn't be surprised if some of those older veterans who are just their one goal is to win a championship. They see, okay, well, Jimmy G is probably give us a better chance. I could see a scenario where that happens. I don't know if it'll be 3 games into this season or anything like that, but I do see there a possible scenario though where maybe a little bit better than what you might be saying or giving it credence to, because there is that one goal in the NFL. All these guys aren't guaranteed. Fred Warner isn't guaranteed to be playing this season after next. A lot of guys. They, especially in the NFL, people retire earlier now. You want to win that ring, get out, get your health, and so they're an interesting team though. They're definitely a team that they could have a wide variance, and I don't think any one person knows right now. And there's a lot of variables that go into it. Them to being a good team, but I do agree with you that their defense will be that consistent that force up front. They win the trenches. So even if their DBs aren't as good as league average or even a little worse than that, that their front seven can create pressure and stop the run good enough to win a lot of games for them. No doubt about it.
I will say the one thing benefiting Trey Lance, their first two opponents are the Bears and the Seahawks. That's such a great first two games
What
to
if you
play.
lose to this? What if you go 0-2 right there? You're telling me that they're gonna let him go? They're gonna let him keep going?
You're
You
not.
lose.
No,
My point
no.
is,
My
if
point
you
is,
go
you're not
0
going
and 3,
0-2 there. You're going
I
2
don't
and 0
know.
there. You're going 2 and 0
no,
there.
if you go 0 and 3, you bench that.
Did they just play the
Can I
Bears
I
cut?
in
mean,
Can I say
preseason
one
I
word?
too?
I mean,
And Justin Fields is looking better.
I think they're gonna lose week 3, but that's just me. Like right off the if I'm just looking at it
Yeah.
like from perspective, like week 3 they play a primetime game against Russell Wilson. Like I'm pretty sure if like Trey Lance is playing that Trey Lance will struggle against that Broncos defense, and that Broncos defense
Prime
is
time, yeah.
the Broncos defense
Right.
is pretty dang good. Like
I could definitely see him start 1-2 though. I don't think the Bears game is a given either. From all the reports, sounded like Justin Fields looked better. Well, they just played their last preseason game, I believe,
yeah,
against each
I
other.
remember Justin Fields hype last year too.
I'm not a
Mm-hmm.
big Justin Fields guy, but
Pepperidge Farms remembers, bro. You know what?
yeah, but we don't know anything about Trey Lance either. So
Yeah, I agree, but I'm like just speaking from like the 49ers, but like okay,
yeah,
here's the thing. If Justin Fields doesn't do well, the Bears are going to lose. If Trey Lance doesn't do well, the 49ers
They're
have
gonna
a
start
Super Bowl roster to win still. Like they are more than their quarterback. The 49ers are more than their quarterback. Obviously, they need a quarterback to take them somewhere, but they are more than their quarterback. The Bears are currently not more than their quarterback. Their roster is terrible. And that's why I'm saying you're not going to go 0-2 against the Bears and Seahawks. This is like an amazing start for your schedule if you're starting Trey Lance. Like, what is this? This is not fair. Like,
That's
watch.
why I said if they go
What?
0 and 3, you bench him.
There's that, but like, if let's just say he does well and he goes 2-0, right? Like, there's gonna be a lot of hype around him, and I'll be sitting here. I'm like, next two games are Broncos and Rams. Come back to me after
Yeah.
those two games, and we'll see where we're at, right? And you know what?
Exactly.
You know what's even funnier? So they play the Broncos week 3 on Sunday Night Football, right?
Right.
And then they play the Rams on Monday Night Football the following week. So you get two primetime games in a row, literally throwing Trey Lance to the wolves week 3 and week 4. We'll see how he is. Actually, I agree with with Mac now. If he doesn't do well in the first 4 weeks, you put in Jimmy G. Why? Because if he doesn't do well in those two primetime games, that ain't it.
who do they got after that second primetime game?
Yeah, cake. Panthers and the Falcons.
Okay, so I think you got to give him at least 6 games. I mean, if he does lose to those first two teams, both of them, they might just be like Jimmy G for week 3. You're in there, bud. We believed in you the whole time. Get out there, boy.
They have a gauntlet run. Week 7 through week is this 14? Yeah, 14. They have Chiefs, Rams, Chargers, Cardinals, Saints, Dolphins, Buccaneers.
Might be the most interesting team in the NFC West, I'd say.
I'd agree with that take.
It's been a kind of a crazy offseason being a Cardinal fan. We've kind of been through the ringer this last couple months, but the Cardinals do have a lot of they bring in Hollywood Brown, and we'll definitely touch on them. But yeah, the 49ers they should almost be on Hard Knocks. Just all the storylines kind of going in and young quarterback, veteran quarterback minded OC, yeah, the whole Debo thing, yeah.
I would love to hear Nick Bosa on Hard Knocks. I really wonder what he would say, and I'm sure he would say something that would piss off a lot of Twitter, and they would go everywhere. It'd be kind of funny.
Oh, I'm sure, definitely. Twitter, everyone gets mad on Twitter.
I mean, everybody gets mad on Twitter, sure, but if you're not what? What were you gonna say, Mac?
If you're not offended on Twitter, then you're not on Twitter.
Yeah.
There's always some dumbass posting some dumbass thing on there that it's half a fan base riled up. I just try to ignore. I'm too old for that shit.
Or if you're not mad at sports on Twitter, you're not in sports Twitter.
Not mad at
True.
sports. You're definitely not an Arizona sports fan. Let's put it that way.
All right, moving on. Let's get to the LA Rams here. So, positive things going for them. Well, they're the defending Super Bowl champions. I would put that as pretty positive. You currently have the best wide receiver in football on your roster. He got the triple crowner, something only a few other wide receivers have done. Randy Moss, um, I believe Jerry Rice, and I forget who the third person was. It was a lesser known wide receiver, and I forget what his name was when I was reading that. But Cooper Kupp is the fourth wide receiver to ever get the triple crowner, where like it was like over triple in yardage, triple in catches, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, what else is positive for this roster? I mean, like Aaron Donald's on your team. Like you could name like a lot of their star players, right? Star power. Let's just call it star power, right? Between Matthew Stafford, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Cooper Kupp, like all those guys, it's still there. Sean McVay is still your coach. He didn't, dude. That was such a dumb storyline. I want to cut off for a second. See, that was a dumb storyline. The whole will Sean McVay retire? No, no. He was never going to retire. That was like the dumbest thing I'd heard in my life. Aaron Donald was not going to retire, and Sean McVay was not going to retire either. Like, that was just dumb. The negatives are someone who did retire, though. Andrew Whitworth. I think this will actually be a very, very big hole. I think him retiring matters a ton. You need to protect someone like Matthew Stafford, because Matthew Stafford is, like, mobile in the sense of, like, the 2000s era of quarterbacks mobile. Like, he was more mobile than, like, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady,
He can roll out left or right.
Trent Green, like just all those like statue quarterbacks, Ben Roethlisberger. Like he's more mobile than them, but he's not like mobile by the definition of today. Like he's not Russell Wilson, he's not Lamar Jackson, he's not Patrick Mahomes, he's not Kyler Murray.
He can
he's not
stand in
Tua.
the pocket, and that's almost more important to an extent. Like
sure,
Kurt Warner, you won't call him mobile, but he can step away left or right to avoid a pass rusher, or he can stand in there with a guy coming right at his face. I think that's just as important than a guy who's trying to avoid getting hit. Stafford's not trying to not, I don't know. He's not taking the pansy way out. I'll say that. As a starting quarterback, I wouldn't mind him being my starting quarterback. He stands in the pocket. He takes his lumps, and at some point you got to do that in the NFL. At the end of the day, it's football. You can't be just trying to look for the big play all the time or not get hit. So he's a good quarterback, but he's going through an injury kind of himself, right?
I think, yeah, but to what you were saying, though, right, is to stand in the pocket and step up in a pocket, there needs to be a pocket and one not collapsing. And, Andrew Whitworth retiring leaves that huge hole was what I was getting at, right?
Mm-hmm.
Robert Woods and OBJ left. I don't find that to be that huge of a negative. Like, Robert Woods was a good contributor. OBJ opened up things in the passing game. However, I don't think he was, like, that impactful outside of just, like, letting Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp have like more room to run around, because they replaced that production with Allen Robinson. I mean, Allen Robinson has been viewed for a while as a number one wide receiver. However, he never had a quarterback in Chicago, and then he never had a quarterback in like Jacksonville to throw at him. So like now he does have a quarterback. So I think Allen Robinson, who will be considered wide receiver 3, right, or maybe even wide receiver 2, like has wide receiver 1 potential. Like, you want to block Robinson or do you want to block Cooper Kupp? Like, pick your poison kind of deal. So I think they upgraded in the wide receiver position. Like, I feel like some people would argue they lost OBJ and Robert Woods, so it's like a downgrade. But no, I like Allen Robinson's enough. They lost Von Miller, but they replaced that with Bobby Wagner. Like, I don't think this team really like got worse, right? I feel like they didn't get better either, right? I should say that this team did not get better. They just like stayed the same, and that may or may not be good enough to win this division. For me, the hugest concern is what you were saying, Mac, was his elbow, right? Like, how is this an injury that stays throughout the season? How long is it gonna last? Is it something that we need to be concerned about? Is it not that big of a concern? To quote Dan Campbell from Hard Knocks this year, he said everybody plays at 80%. No player ever starts at 100%, and that's probably true because you're always training your body, so you're always going to be tired, right? But does that mean Stafford is at like can he play at 80%, or is he going to be at like 60 to 70 the whole time? And that's my main concern. And Matt Stafford like didn't play that differently last year, from how he played with the Lions. Like he pretty much played the same. Pretty solid
Just on a better
quarterback.
team.
He's good.
Yeah.
He's a solid quarterback. He can make big plays. He's also going to throw a lot of interceptions. There's that amazing like catch that you guys had. Who's your number 7 corner? Byron Murphy. That's who it is. You know, he
With
had that
leaping INT.
that leaping interception, right? Like that's just stuff that Matt Stafford throws, and he's always done that his entire career. So I don't think he changed like his like style that much. Like maybe McVay helped him out a bit, but like I wouldn't say like Stafford like improved last year so much as he just had a better roster around him to complement his skill set, which is all the Rams needed and all he needed. So they got their Super Bowl out of it. That's cool. Um, that's my outlook on them. They didn't get better. They didn't get worse. The one thing that someone could argue that they got better at is Cam Akers is healthy. You can argue that to me, and I will accept that as a valid argument. Cam Akers is healthy.
Yeah, you add that to Darrell Henderson too. It sounds like Darrell Henderson's running the ball well. Yeah, that offense is scary. I mean, Cooper Kupp, he tore us up the second time we faced him. It was miserable.
I was there.
But
I remember that.
So the Rams in all their in each season that they missed the playoffs just once. During that season, the offensive line ranked 25th in pass block win rate. According to Pro Football Focus, they finished 29th in pass blocking. This last year, they led the NFL in pass block win rate at 68%. They're 81.4 pass block on Pro Football Focus, also led the NFL. So they win the trenches as much as any team in the NFL. You lose Andrew Whitworth. They also lost their right guard. So they're 40% of the offensive line's in flux. So that's something definitely to keep an eye on. Like you mentioned, Von Miller. I do think Von Miller's an upgrade over dude from the Seahawks who just went there. He's a little bit more athletic. He seems like he's got a couple more years. Yeah. Bobby Wagner was cut. You know, there's a reason why his metrics did not grade out very well last year. But even then, that defense, you still have Aaron Donald there. You still have Jalen Ramsey. I don't know. You know, he's hit or miss, but he's still a solid vet in the secondary that, you know, is going to cause troubles for a lot of teams. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to go up against Sean McVay and this offense and Cooper Kupp. I do think Allen Robinson. I know there are a lot of Bears fans that were hating on him because of a lot of the effort that he put in these last couple of years. But you see some of the clips. It's just preseason and training camp, but he looks fully healthy. That kind of is a scary proposition for any team facing the Rams, you know, because Robert Woods is good, OBJ was good, but they didn't have that. I think they were kind of past the prime of their career. And who's to say Allen Robinson isn't either? I do think he's a little bit more dynamic right now as a receiver. And then you touched on the running back. So if they have the two healthy running backs, that's a pretty mean running back room right there. So, you know, anything can happen in the NFL. I do think the Rams, while they probably didn't get better, they probably didn't get that much worse. And when you win the Super Bowl, you don't necessarily have to keep getting better. You're already the best in the NFL. So I don't know if the Cardinals or anybody else in the NFC has made that leap to surpass them. I guess just time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's the fear with the Rams. That's not necessarily the team itself. It's more Sean McVay. Like, everyone regards him as like this big chess master, or like they put him up there with like Belichick's status, like coaching.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like
the Bill Belichick of the offense.
Yeah, but I mean, he's had a solid roster. Like, go back to the Jeff Fisher days with that roster and give him the same like players and see what he can do with it. Because he's not. It's not like he's taking.
Yeah,
his
he
team
took them to
the
a Super Bowl against
year.
the Patriots. Don't you remember? He took literally that same roster. Don't you not remember that? Jared Goff went to a Super Bowl against the Patriots. I mean, they only scored 3 points,
And did
but
absolutely fucking nothing and got out-coached.
okay,
He got Belichick.
But I'm just saying. But who was in the Super Bowl? He was. Literally,
Yeah,
that
but I mean, like,
Super
look
Bowl is
at everybody
the
else in the
reason they were
NFC.
like, we need an upgrade.
It's kind of like the whole
Everybody
Jimmy
in
G
the
thing.
NFC. Yeah. Like, how do I say this without offending anybody? I can't. Okay, but yeah, just
Just say what you want. It doesn't matter. No one's gonna get offended.
No. This is bad. But just look at the NFC that year. I mean, like that was the best product of the NFC, and they just looked silly in that whole Super Bowl. What did they score? Like 3 points? Not a single touchdown? Yeah, it was ugly. But anyways,
I would also like to remind you that's the same team that scored 51 and beat Patrick Mahomes too. I'm just saying, like, if Sean McVay can get Jared Goff to outduel Patrick Mahomes, he's doing something right. And then he got Matt Stafford to a Super Bowl. I feel like I'm on Team McVay when it comes to like how the Rams are doing. I don't attribute it to like Matt Stafford. And like Cooper Kupp is great. Cooper Kupp actually roasted the shit out of my college. I went to Northern Arizona University, and he went to Eastern Washington. We hosted Eastern Washington, and this just random white dude blew us up for like 210 yards and 4 touchdowns. NAU still won the game, right? It was like a 50 something to 40 something game. NAU still won, but I just remember like, man, that wide receiver's good. And then when I like saw the name Cooper Kupp, I was like, that's so familiar. Oh yeah, that's right. He's the guy who blew us up at NAU. So like obviously he's good, but I truly believe like this offense does not look the same without McVay. Like I'll definitely stand for McVay here on that one. On the other hand, McVay's teams. One thing I will say about McVay's teams, if the game plan's not working in the middle of the game, I've yet to see a game. Yeah, no, I agree with you. That's the one thing I will say against him. I've yet to see a game where like they have a great comeback.
Can they adjust? Can they adapt?
Yeah, I haven't seen a game, but then again, you could also point to the fact they've never had to adapt. Isn't McVay the one that has like the what are the Rams like 35-0 when they have the lead at halftime or something like that?
No.
Aren't they undefeated when they have the lead at halftime?
I believe that ended this last season.
Did it end this last season?
I believe so.
I remember them having that though. So it's not like he's ever really needed to
make huge adjustments.
Yeah, make those huge adjustments in the first place. Thank you. I can't talk. So if you want to like trash something on McVay, that's definitely it. Is I've never seen the Rams have to make a massive adjustment in their game, right? And win doing so, right? Usually when they lose because like they couldn't figure it out. Like that. I think it was week 4 when you guys played them last season, right? Like you just demolished them and they couldn't like figure anything out about it.
Make those adjustments from game to game.
That streak ended.
Unless it was the 49ers game.
Score right before it was the 49ers game. Never mind, because we scored right before the half. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Either way,
45 in a row, though.
Quarterback injury away from being fucked.
Oh, did you look it up? Is it 45 in a row?
It was 45, and then they lost it in January of this year.
Oh, who did they lose it to?
49ers.
Oh, like, was it like week 18 or whatever?
Yeah, it must have been the last week of the season because article's January 9th.
Gotcha. Anyways, I want to know what you were gonna say. Say whatever you think was offensive. I literally don't think anybody's gonna get offended here.
I was gonna say it's like winning gold at the Special Olympics.
Oh boy! Oh no! I didn't know that's where she was going. Confirm.
You offended Sanders.
No. Oh no. Confirmed.
No.
Confirmed. Jackie is Sean McVay is king of the Olympics.
Yeah, no, edit that shit out.
Oh boy.
With autism.
Okay, so, all right.
No more Modelo's.
I'm gonna move on from this one. Last thing, is there any like true weakness on this Rams roster? Like, there's none that I can really see outside of like my concern at left tackle. That's the only thing I can think of is the line.
And Matthew Stafford's health. I'm telling you, they're one quarterback injury away from being irrelevant.
I agree with you because their backup is.
It's every team basically, though.
I don't remember their backup. I mean, at least.
No, I feel like other backups can be more serviceable. I think they'd be in shambles if Stafford was out.
I think backup quarterbacks like I guess
Rams
like
depth chart.
like I was gonna say back when like Mitch Trubisky was backing up Josh Allen, like that's fine, right? Or Tyler
Oh
Huntley
yeah,
for the Baltimore, or even Colt McCoy for Arizona. Like there are some quarterbacks that are backups that are fine. Like even like if Drew Lock was backing up like
Serviceable, yes.
a real
John
QB1.
Wolford.
Yeah, that's right, Mr.
That's
Wolford.
who their backup is.
If I remember correctly, Wolford was the one who upset you guys 2 years ago, right?
Knock us out of the playoffs, right?
Yeah, what a bummer. I remember that. I remember going into that 3 week stretch where it's like you guys just had to win one of those 3 games, and then you didn't
Oh
win any of those
yeah,
three
that
Any of
games.
them.
best of the year we've
Yeah,
lived in the last 3 years. He also was the quarterback for the Arizona Hotshots out here when that league was around. So that was we all knew him. Like a lot of Cardinal fans knew him. Like, okay, Wolford, let's see what you got. And then he couldn't do shit. That was
gotcha.
awful.
So do we
He also
have?
had Strebler.
Yeah, that's true. Wait, they have
Did they pick him
Strebler?
up?
Mm. You know what I'm saying? When John Wolford beat us, we had Strebler
Ah, yes.
starting
Darton.
as well.
Mm.
In
Trying to
place
block
of
out all
Kyler.
those.
No, you had Kyler
Uh,
Murray starting. He was just out of the first quarter. I remember.
oh gosh, yeah.
I
And then
think
he
he,
entered.
yeah.
Yep, and then Chris Trevor came in. Yep, that's what it was. All right. So, any other thoughts on the Rams, or are we good here?
Fuck the Rams.
I mean, that's a decent last thought. I'll take it. I don't. I would like to tell my
I mean, I'm
audience
not
that.
kidding.
I know you're not kidding. I would like to tell my audience that I am not biased towards any of these teams here. I guess some could
These
argue.
are these are just pure Homer hater takes. Like I have no logic, reason behind these. It's just I'm just a hater by
No,
trade.
that's what I was gonna say. But the other two, I can't speak for.
Yeah, I'm
No,
just
I'm,
a
I'm
hater
I'm
by
curious to
trade.
see how their depth holds up too. I mean, they lose a handful of starters on defense, so not all of them were. Some of them were rotational.
Yeah, they weren't
Uh,
world beaters, but like I guess as like so one other caller friend Joanna was saying like they were a couple of them were starters and like it'll be interesting to see like how they get replaced.
yeah, especially with their cap being so low, it's not like you'll be able to add a bunch of. They'll find a way. I'm sure they always do, but I know the Cardinals still seem to have. I'm not gonna jump on them. They still have like 10 million in cap space. So if anything happens, hopefully there's a little insurance right there. You got some money to be able to make a trade, bring in somebody or something, even if the salaries don't match up necessarily.
You know what? In the words of Samuel Lester Snead, fuck them picks. Because that's exactly how they won their Super Bowl. Fuck them picks. Alrighty, moving on to the last team of the NFC West, but most certainly not the last that's going to be placed unless like the roster dies or something like that. And it's the Arizona Cardinals. I'm pretty much just going to let you guys take over. I'll give my positives and negatives, and then I'll just let you guys ramble for a little bit, and maybe I'll comment here and there. But this can pretty much just be a preview of your Redbird Red Zone show if you want it to be. Positives for the Cardinals. Kyler Murray has been signed to an extension with no homework on top of it. I have to throw that joke in there. I know it's tired and old, but I have to anyway. They
Gee, thanks,
also
mister.
what?
I said, gee, thanks, mister.
Gee, thanks, mister. Yeah. Hey, man. I don't give my students homework. I don't know why the Cardinals are giving them homework. Anyway, uh, Hopkins is out for 6 games, but the positive is that they traded for Marquise Hollywood Brown from the Ravens, giving them a real deep threat. Not that they didn't have it with Rondale Moore already, but I truly believe like this is a better deep threat than Rondale Moore. If you ask me from watching the little bit of tape that Rondale Moore has from last season, he really reminds me of like a faster Wes Welker or Danny Amendola type. So I would really like to see them put him in the slot more often. I think Rondale Moore would be great in the middle of the field, making people miss in the middle of the field. I think that's where he belongs, and you can have Zach Ertz on the other end, who can be the bigger body that can take catches in the middle of the field as well. I think kind of like what I said for like the Rams. I can say for the Cardinals, like this is just an offensive powerhouse, right? Especially starting week 7 between Hopkins, Brown, Ertz, Moore. Like, this roster is just salivating, and I haven't even mentioned James Conner yet. Like, I love this offense, and let's not forget that, like, Kyler Murray is very good. Like, I don't understand the hate that Kyler Murray. I mean, yes, I kind of understand the whole, like, the owner probably thinks he's a little lazy. Like that, I do believe. I do believe the owner probably thinks he's a little lazy because that contract thing that was in it, that's never been done for a quarterback before, and I 100% looked at that. I'm like, that's an owner thing. That's not Steve Keim. That's not the coach. That's an owner thing. That's an owner protecting his money,
Oh
kind
yeah,
of thing right there, right?
we talked
So,
about that. Yeah.
so like I'm sure like it like Bidwill, and I'm not like a big fan of Bidwill to begin with in the first place. Living here, he's better than his dad. I'll say that. Uh, he just made a dumb mistake putting that homework title in. But Kyler Murray's just amazing, and I only think he gets the hate because the owner decided to stir up some drama bullshit in the middle of March, and then right as they were about to reach a deal, Deshaun Watson got 230 million guaranteed, and his agent was like, "Well, if Deshaun Watson's getting 230 million guaranteed, we got to start over." You know. So, and I think that's smart by the agent, right? I think everything that the agent did for Kyler Murray was not negative. Like that grand piece of paper that they came out with in the tiniest font possible that you had to zoom in. I loved that. I was not negative about that. That was some good shit right there. Great bargaining. Like I'm gonna be honest, I think Kyler Murray's side mostly did everything right. I just think it's the Cardinals like ownership side of things that was a little eh. They should have gotten it done earlier, but whatever. All this to say that like I don't understand the hate, and Kyler Murray's great. Like quit being haters, and let's go to the defensive side of things. Let's talk about Mr. Buda Baker, one of the best safeties in the league. Byron Murphy, I think, is an underrated number one corner, so that's pretty good there. But I think that's pretty much where at least my positives. Maybe you guys have more. My positives from the defense end, because number two corner is probably the same talent as number four corner. That side of the field is going to be burnt toast against Derek Carr and Devontae
I will
Adams.
say about
Patrick Mahomes. The middle of the field is questionable. The defensive line is fine. I don't think the defensive line is bad or the middle of the field is bad. It's just I think there's some work to be done there, and I'm sorry that you guys drafted Zaven Collins. So there's my overall look at the Cardinals. What do you guys got?
yeah, I think
take this first.
yeah, I think I just want to go back to the agent thing real quick. I think the one thing that he did fail was not to have that in the contract. That's a fail on the agent's part. These contracts are public knowledge. He knew it was going to be public.
It's
these guys, Ian Rappaport.
I think what happened, and someone had a really good. I was listening to the Rich Eisen show, and someone had a really good theory about this. That the original thing that the owner probably put in was like 40 hours, right? And they were like, "No, that's ridiculous. Keep lowering it. Keep lowering it till I." What was the final one? Like 8 hours, 10 hours, was what it was. Something so small, minuscule, where it looks stupid, right? Because I'm betting the original was like really high, and the agent negotiated it down to look stupid, so that when it did come out, ownership would look stupid, and they would have to redact it. That's just
it was 4 hours.
Yeah, that it was 4 hours. Okay, but that's just a theory that like someone put out, right? That it was probably much higher, and the agent negotiated it down.
4 hours.
Yeah,
at the end of the day, you still make your client look bad to have 4 hours, and they're like 40 might be one thing. You see 40, like okay,
Okay, but what if Bidwell? What if Bidwell said we're not giving you a contract if we don't have this in there? Then what? What do you do? Not sign a contract?
I'd make them, show their bluff. I'd call them that they're bluffing. Personally, you're going to get that money from one team or another, and I'd say undoubtedly. But
I agree.
And maybe at the end of the day, Kyler was like, "Fuck it, just put it in there. Let's just get it over with and just get my money. Let's move forward. I've already dealt enough, drama on social media and all this hate coming in anyways. Where he has to, after that came out, he has to come out and have an interview or a press conference acknowledging it. And I could just see him just being done with basically the whole offseason, wanting to get it over with. But that's either not here nor there. But I do think, going back to the Cardinals roster, that they are a deeper team now this year than last year. And this year, as Jackie eloquently put it in her latest piece, her first piece, what Steve Keim did this year was he wanted to control the core of the Cardinals roster He did that a lot of times. A lot of the moves that he's made in the past, bringing guys in, Jordan Phillips, for example, you give him a big contract. You don't. He doesn't see the field that much. So he wanted to lock up the guys who have been here, who can trust, that have been productive and added to winning football. These last couple years. So I'll tip my cap off to him. But there are some areas of weakness that were last year where I don't think they've built it up enough. Just because I think the cornerback room is deeper this year compared to last year, it's nowhere near the level of talent on paper that you would think is going to be a championship type roster. So even if they went from having the fifth worst depth last year to the 10th worst this year, I mean, that's even pushing it a little bit. I mean, before we made these waiver wire and a trade to bring two cornerbacks in here, a lot of people had us as the worst ranked cornerback room in the league, and I think that's fair. But when you go to the offensive line, and just going back to last year and seeing all the injuries that hit us, we had to move our right guard Max Garcia to center, and everyone who watched any part of the Cardinals in the second half, something as simple as snapping the ball was a challenge.
I don't have a homer take on this. Max Garcia sucked. That's my non-homer take.
I think he was a good guard, but when you move,
I'm talking about at center, he sucked at center.
Oh yeah, and you know what? That's on the front office. That's on the coaching staff to not nailing that down beforehand and saying, okay, we have this guy who's played guard, pretty well for us, and you're gonna have to move him. They did that same thing to where Justin Pugh was talking this year too earlier when he announced he was coming back, how he was going to be possibly taking snaps at center if he'll be ready, backup center if need be, or even had to move over there if Rodney Hudson was going to be out. And that's not something that after last season that I think a lot of fans were happy about. But hopefully having Rodney Hudson back, hopefully he can be healthy for a full year. Sean Harlow is going to be his backup. You have Lacita Smith, who they drafted late in the draft this year, as another depth guy. So just that up front, that position right there, where if you can't even snap the ball, that just deflates the whole team, right off the bat for you. And then, Cardinals bring in Cody Ford, who has a bunch of snaps, starts under his belt with the Bills the last couple of years. And, you're bringing him back with Kyler Murray, who, they were teammates back in Oklahoma. So he's going to have familiarity, and you're going to match him up with Sean Kugler, who everyone loves as an offensive line coach. And it looks like he's done a pretty good job with Josh Jones. What we saw in Josh Jones this preseason, I think everyone is pretty elated about that. The one thing I would say about Josh Jones is he played left tackle all of preseason, which when you look at DJ Humphries, you just locked DJ Humphries into another contract. You extended him. DJ Humphries hasn't missed a game in 3 or 4 years now. So if you're going to need Josh Jones, it's probably going to be the older right tackle guy who's going to be filling in for him, Kelvin Beachum. I just wish we would have seen more of that, because that's not an easy spot to be in, as a swing tackle. Just getting all your reps at left, on the left side. Now you have to come and everything's totally different on the right side, with you're blocking the guy from Kyler Murray's face. So that's something to keep an eye on, I think, as the season progresses. And if something does happen to Kelvin Beachum, it'd be interesting to see if Josh Jones can come in and play exactly like he was doing at left tackle this preseason for us. I think our wide receivers are as deep as I can remember them to be. I don't expect Andy Isabella or even really Greg Dortch to make too much of an impact, because you look at the depth chart last year when DeAndre Hopkins went down, AJ Green slid over. You have Christian Kirk, who's gone, who Rondell Moore is going to be filling in for, and then you're going to have Hollywood Brown, who basically comes in and takes that opposite spot that you didn't have when DeAndre Hopkins went down. So I don't see a role right now for Greg Dortch or Andy Isabella necessarily, even with Antoine Wesley banged up. But in a pinch, I think they both can come in and help, either in special teams or do some of the packages that Cliff loves, and the short little bubble screens and stuff like that. Get the ball in the speedster's hands with Andy Isabella and Greg Dortch. As for, I don't know, Jackie, what do you think about the offense? What did I miss, kind of?
No, I think you nailed it. I mean, like I feel like Greg Dortch and Andy Isabella will probably come in for some nice design plays, during Hopkins' absence, and I wouldn't be surprised if, well, maybe not necessarily Greg Dortch, but maybe Andy Isabella being a trade target at the deadline
Yeah.
for anything that of need. But I'm glad this Kyler thing's kind of in the past now. We can kind of focus on some of the other things going into the season, which is really breaking open this offense. We've kind of have a unique situation where we have some great tight ends. That historically we've never had any good tight ends, so I'm curious to see if how Cliff is going to use the tight end depth we have, as well as some of our running back depth. We've chosen to keep 5 total. So we'll see how all of them pan out. I mean, if you look at the box score, they're not averaging a whole lot of yards per carry. But if you look at preseason, every one of them looked pretty solid. And I mean, we'll probably have some special teams guys. We'll see what we do with like our tandem with Connor and whoever else, either Eno or Daryl Williams. I'm trying to think. As far as defense goes, obviously corner is a huge need. I still feel like we need to find some kind of free agent veteran. I don't trust a lot of younger guys at the corner position. Safety, though, I just wrote about our extension with Jalen Thompson, so I'm really excited to see what he can do opposite of Buda Baker. I feel like both of them were pretty consistent last year, and I feel like that'll continue coming into this year.
As for the offense, if this isn't a top 10 offense, I would say a top 5 offense because if DeAndre Hopkins is healthy. But if this isn't a top 10 offense at the end of the year, somebody should get fired. They have all the pieces. Kind of seemed to put most of assets this season towards the offense. It seems like. I mean, he did add a lot of depth to the outside linebacker with young guys, and we'll see how that play out. But when you had Hollywood in there, you sign 1,000-yard running back in Daryl Williams, and then you add kind of the depth that he did around, and then you draft a tight end in second round. You're giving Cliff, who's already an offensive guru guy, all the pieces he needs to be successful. It's definitely the defense that I'm most interested in. A lot of young talent out there who I think Isaiah Simmons could be ready for his breakout year. He had over 100 tackles last year. I wouldn't be surprised if he bumps that up and he finishes in the top 10 tackles this year. It's going to be curious to see how Zaven Collins adapts and improves, because that's what we want to see. A lot of Cardinal fans just going to be eyeing him. And then also the young guys, Victor Dimukeje he showed out in preseason. You have Cam Thomas, Myjai Sanders. So there's more depth now, I feel like, at the outside linebacker. They might not be as top heavy. You have Dennis Gardeck starting for Chandler Jones now with Chandler moving to the Raiders. And then defensive tackle, they didn't really do much there. It's basically the same unit. They added, I think, Jonathan Ledbetter. He's on the team now. He's been around a couple years. I think he's an undrafted free agent 2019 out of the draft. But he looked good in preseason, and that's a guy right there that hopefully can push Rashard Lawrence and Lecky Fotu to being better than really what they've shown these first couple years in the league. Because our rush D was not good last year, and from the looks of it, we haven't really gotten better there. We might have been one of the worst rush, defensive lines in the league last year, and maybe we're a little bit better with the depth, but I don't see it being substantially better. Like, it wasn't. Time didn't make it a point to do it like he did so with the offensive line, I feel like, or even the wide receiver room.
Yeah.
So I got a question for you guys. How much does the linebacker room concern you? Because I'm looking at like the roster right now, right? And I like Isaiah Simmons, and Gardeck's fine. Like, I know he's a fan favorite. I understand that, right? But from a neutral perspective, Gardeck is fine. I don't think he's bad. He's just fine, and he makes some solid plays when he has to. I think he's really energetic and fun to watch. But like from an objective standpoint, he's fine. He's a contributor. Outside of those two players, who the hell is on this roster? Like Vallejo is again all right. Wooten was a cool addition, but like I'm kind of
Yeah, they
on the
added
I'm
Nick
kind of on the
Vigil.
Collins hater train too. I don't like what I've seen from Collins for a guy who's supposed to be a first round pick.
This is a huge year for him. He has to step up, no doubt about it. You put as many assets draft wise into the linebacker room that Keim has done over the last 6 years. I believe it's 4 first round linebackers that he's done, maybe 3 out of 5. That they need to produce an all pro level linebacker here from this core, and with them moving Isaiah to a star backer, I guess he be kind of more of like a Deion Buchanan type role, where he doesn't have to be that guy in the front 7 that is clogging up the hole or has to take on offensive linemen. In the run game, he can meet a guy. Um, if there's an open hole, and it's a one-on-one. That's where I want Isaiah Simmons to be. I want him to be able to meet the running back. Everyone doing their job in front of him, and he being able to take it on one-on-one. And then Isaiah also showed to be excellent at covering tight ends last year. I think this role will give him a little more flexibility to do that as well. But some of these guys have to step up because, Nick Vigil, he looks like to be starting possibly alongside Zaven Collins, and he's about an average linebacker. So, if he can come in and just be even a little better than Jordan Hicks, because Jordan Hicks made this defense very slow at times. There are a lot of plays he cannot get to in the run game. So I just hope Nick Vigil shows to be at least a little bit lighter on his feet. But Tanner Vallejo, he's had some handful of starts under his belt. But they're really banking on these young guys, Victor Demicheji, Cam Thomas, Myjai Sanders, guys they drafted in the 3rd round, to step up and be contributors this year. And hopefully between Cam Thomas, Myjai Sanders, one of them shows to be, a positive, more than positive even, impact on the football field as a rookie this year. And that's just something we haven't seen in a while, is someone coming in as a rookie and impacting this defense as it needs to be, as all NFL teams need to be. You can't just rely totally on free agents and side guys. You got to be able to draft well, and you spend picks as many as we have on this linebacker room. Not even just first round, but these 3rd rounders. Some of them have to just start hitting, and I'm very excited to see what Victor Demicheji can do, because I think by the end of the year, there's no doubt in my mind he could be a starter, even replacing Gardeck if Gardeck starts off slow or injuries bang him up again.
So I'm gonna go over to Jackie now. Jackie, you're the one who's writing for this team, so give me something that you love and something that like you hate about this team, right? Because obviously everyone has something that they love and hate about their rosters, right? So give me something that you love about the Cardinals team, something that you don't like going into the season, and what you're hoping won't be as bad as you might think it is.
So first off, I love the running back depth of this team. Like Jonathan Ward is like really exciting for me,
That's my
especially
boy. That's my boy. I love
yes,
Jonathan Ward.
yes, like that play last year where he caught the ball off of the Cowboys defender's like helmet. Like I have just been like on board, big fan. And Benjamin, like he's an Arizona like ASU guy, so of course like I have to root for him no matter what. Um, as far as wide receiver goes, like I hope Cliff can kind of scheme up some things for everybody's individual skill set. Especially Rondale Moore, because I feel like a lot of Rondale Moore's like big plays last year were coming off of like broken plays, like where Kyler just found him like deep downfield. So that's what I would like to see out of him. But I don't like our cornerback room. Like I feel like Byron Murphy needs to step it up. I feel like ever since he switched to number 7, like his play, I don't know why, but his like play has like kind of decreased. But I feel like he's kind of solidified as more of a slot corner than an outside corner. Marco Wilson, he's been kind of slowly disappearing. His play digressed last year, so I'd like for him to like take a leap forward. but we didn't really address the depth this offseason as I would have liked. We brought in a couple of younger guys via trade, Trayvon Mullen with the Raiders, and then the Jets cut. I forget his name. I'm sorry. Guidry.
Yeah, Javelin Guidry.
Javelin Guidry. Yes, we signed him after the Jets cut him. But still, I would have liked to. I really wish we would have traded for somebody a little bit bigger, but there are some good, well, serviceable free agent corners that we could still pick up. I would just like to, at least pick one up for insurance, even if it's Robert Alford because he knows the defense.
Right.
But other than that, I mean, like I said, in the article I wrote, Kime's focus was to just kind of solidify the core of this team, bring everybody back, and see if we can just kind of build from there.
Yeah, and I'll even touch on that a little bit too. Is what I love about the team. I absolutely love the offense. I think the offense, even just starting that, you win games still in the NFL up front in the offensive line. I think Kime did a fairly good job, even with injuries happening in preseason. He went out and he was able to get a Cody Ford, who does have a lot of starts under his belt. And then the wide receiver room, the depth. I mean, we saw how miserable it was when D-Hop went down last year. I don't think A.J. Green caught a touchdown in the second half of the season, and I think Christian Kirk maybe caught one touchdown. And they were both invisible during the playoff game. So you needed depth there, and to be able to add a Hollywood Brown who's been with Kyler, over half a decade. They worked with each other back in Oklahoma. And, they thrived together. He averaged 110 yards per game, over 17 yards a catch, almost averaged a touchdown a game, I believe. So I do expect huge things from Hollywood. And then when D-Hop comes back, hopefully it all kind of falls into place right there. And then what I don't love is just all the question marks on defense. Jackie touched on it with the cornerbacks, the defensive line. There's still question marks at linebacker. Basically anywhere other than safety, there are question marks that I just don't think, even if the most positive of fans can explain away to make me feel much better. Because there are some of those fans on Twitter who everything's always positive no matter what. But there, it's always somewhere in the middle. So this is also giving opportunity to young guys that maybe never had a chance in the NFL to be able to come up and show that they're going to take the bull by the horns and they're going to run away with one of these jobs and at least make an impact. Getting more reps than people think coming into this year. So while there are a lot of question marks, it gives a chance for a lot of these players to step up. And Vance Joseph, he is known to be able to he's an X and O's guy, and he's able to show different packages and blitz packages to confuse quarterbacks. So that should only help this defense, hopefully. But they just, at the end of the day, they really just need to be a middle of the pack defense. I've been saying this for years. You give Cliff a middle of the pack defense, they're going to win his offenses are going to win a lot of games, and especially now how Kime has even added more assets to the offense. There's going to be a lot of shootouts, but I do think that this defense can surprise a lot of teams with their athleticism and just the fact that there's a lot of new parts and there's not a lot of film on a lot of these guys for offensive coordinators to be able to go over, especially early on in the season. So hopefully that plays to our advantage.
Alrighty, sounds good. Any final thoughts on the rosters, or should I get to my predictions for the Cardinals?
Cards in 4, bitch. You can edit that out.
Did she just say Cardinals in 4, bitch?
Yeah.
Is that just for like a week 1 prediction, or?
I don't know. It's Suns in 4, Cards in 4.
Okay, that's what she was going for. Yeah, tomato. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Couple things. One, I didn't do my Rams predictions, so I'm going to do my Rams predictions with my Cardinals predictions. So flippity flip to the Rams real quickly, and this actually does have to do with the Cardinals. The first pick that I have for them is they will not be the division winners this year. I do not have them winning the division because I have the Cardinals winning the division. Good take or bad? I mean, obviously the fans are gonna say it's a good take, but like objectively, good take or bad take?
Excellent take. I love it.
They've won, progressed each and every season. They just have to put it together for that full season. Keep Kyler upright and have him not get hurt, and the sky's the limit. We've seen each last 2 years he gets banged up, and this offense is just not the same. That's the biggest key to this whole season is health. If J.J. Watt can stay healthy for a full season, which is, almost goes like every other year by now, if you look back on the last like 5-6 years, he misses most of the season. He played 16 games, so
You're asking for the second coming of Christ at this point, though.
we'll see because of the defensive line and run. I mean, just the whole thing together doesn't really work without J.J. Watt, especially with how many question marks there are defensively. But if you can get both him and Kyler healthy for a full year, the sky's the limit. This team could easily, maybe a little hyperbole, but I think there's definitely a path for them to represent the NFC this year. The NFC isn't as strong as it was last year. So I do think that the NFC is pretty wide open, and you just got to stay healthy, and you can't just fall apart towards the end of the season. Hopefully, this is the year where they kind of put it together. Fourth year, you give these contract extensions to Kime and Cliff, you're expecting it. So I don't hate it at all. I mean, we showed last year when we're good, we could beat anybody. We walloped the Rams. So
absolutely,
yeah.
We can go on a run, at any given Sunday. And I mean, like, I know there's a lot of question marks with most of the defensive side, but last year we have shown that we can withstand some adversity. So if we can put it together this year, and I've been a big like stickler for it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. If we can overcome some adversity and really finish strong, like, we can take the league by surprise. It's just how bad we want it and how much we can stick to, the goal of, it's home Super Bowl. Like the last 2 years, the home team has won it, so we got to keep the trend going.
Here's the other trend that's happened, though. Every team that's won it, even though it's been at home, they've traded for a quarterback. You guys didn't do that.
Right, we already had our franchise QB.
I know, but what I'm saying is that's the other part of the trend. So you only got half the trend right now. So you got to break the other half. All right, second prediction, right? Second prediction. And this one is going to be just Rams focused only, and then I'll get to my second Cardinals one. Second one, I have Cam Akers going for over 1,000 yards this year. I remember how good Todd Gurley was when Sean McVay came in, right? And I think Sean McVay can unleash that with Cam Akers too, especially because he's got a no offense to Jared Goff, better quarterback, and that wide receiver room is pretty nice. So Cam Akers for over 1,000 yards. Hot take, not take?
I think with Darrell Henderson being there, he's going to take some of that, some of those carries. All the counts say Darrell Henderson looks good. So that's my only real concern, and we'll see. I got Cam Akers in a fantasy league, so I wouldn't hate it, but I'm not. That's kind of like the pick I took, and I was like, not happy with that take. So I took Darrell Henderson as well a couple rounds later, because he's shown to be very explosive, when healthy as well.
I mean, Nick Chubb's been balling, and he's had Kareem Hunt at him behind him the last 3 years, and he's had 1,000 yards. He's over 1,000. 2019 was 1,500, but
Yeah, I mean that's Nick Chubb. Cam Akers is nowhere on that same
that's
level.
True. That's true.
What about me?
Hot take, not take?
Hot take, non-take. Yeah, I mean the Cardinals will probably
No. The Cam Akers take is a hot take or not take?
Just say he's only played 14 games over the last 2 years. You're an idiot.
There you go. I like that.
That's a not take. Fuck Cam Akers.
All right, cool. I can always get Jackie to give me the homer take. Like really, that's what I love about her. She'll give me the homer take and she doesn't care. I love that.
Yeah.
I
I
really,
mean, I will give you the fucking hater take because I'm a hater by trade.
I really wonder what your writing is gonna look like. Am I gonna read it and be like, oh, this is professional? Am I gonna read it and be like, yep, this was written by
Uh,
Jackie?
it looked
No, it's
professional, the first
professional.
one.
It's just that I'm celebrating my first article. So yeah, I've had a couple Chardonnays.
I haven't read
But
it
yeah.
yet, but
Ooh.
I actually have it as a tab. Like I'm gonna read it, but it's on my
Yay.
tabs. I just haven't read it yet, but I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited for you on that one. All right.
Thank you.
So the second prediction for the Cardinals. I already said that they would win their division, right? Um, sneaky one here. And it goes off of Mac over here saying they've improved every year. I got you guys winning the division at 12 wins and being
Oh.
the number 3 seed. I got you guys being a top 3 seed.
Oh.
What do you think?
12 wins, top three. Who you got getting more wins?
You might not like that. You might not like that.
Tampa Bay and Green Bay.
No, actually, I don't even have Green Bay winning their division.
Oh, who do you have winning that
I
division?
have the
Vikings.
I
You
have
got
the
them
I have the
Vikings.
Vikings at number 2. I do.
So you got the Lions.
I
Okay.
do.
He would.
Dude, Kevin Connell's gonna fucking destroy that division. I'm telling you, that is the perfect coach they could have gotten for that team. Dude, don't be downing Jets and Thielen and Cook. Oh my goodness, that roster,
Yeah,
that
you
the
you
offense
love
is
your
gonna be
Kirk
fire.
Cousins.
Okay. You know what? When your quarterback throws 37 interceptions and 37 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions with 4,000 yards, you can talk to me.
Yeah.
like
I just
literally.
don't see him as that guy winning a lot of games. He's not the guy you want fourth quarter with the
Okay,
ball in his
yeah,
hand.
so fun fact. We're gonna get on this conversation for a second. Fun fact: last year, the Vikings were the worst team in defensive scoring in the last 2 minutes of both the second half and the first half. They let the most points be scored against them at the end of the first half and the second half. The Vikings defense just choked. That's why Mike Zimmer was fired. Like literally, last year was really not Kirk Cousins at all. That defense just sucked. Like.
Didn't he have a hot girlfriend though? Didn't we talk about this in one of our podcasts?
No, we talked about Jared Goff having a hot girlfriend because he does.
We talked about on our podcast. We talked about what's his name having
Mike
a
Zimmer
girlfriend.
having a hot girlfriend.
Let me look at his wife. Oh yeah, she's pretty good looking too. I'll give him that. But no, anyways, no. Kirk Cousins is better than Mac believes. I'll always have this argument with him. But
Yeah,
like,
that's fine. I'm just curious to see what your excuse is going to be next year when they finish, 9-8 or 10-7.
they won't. They won't. I promise you, they're gonna
Okay.
beat the Packers in their division this. I have them getting 13 wins. And then the team that I have at number 1 is oh my goodness.
Tampa.
Why am I bailing on it? Yes, thank you.
I'm not. Tom Brady is halfway out the door. His foot's out the door. They're
Yeah,
gonna
you
take
think he's
step
taking a
back.
break because he doesn't want to be there? You one of those people?
No, I just think. I mean, he already said he was going to retire. When you say you're going to retire, then you want to come back. You're not fully there. Todd Bowles isn't Bruce Arians, so things are going to change a little bit. So I could see them taking a step back personally. That's just my take.
We'll see. We'll see what happens with Tampa Bay. The other team like I would watch out for would be like the Eagles. I have them. Like those are my picks: Vikings, Cardinals, Bucks, and Eagles.
Mhm.
That's what I got winning the division. Since we're already here, right? Since we're already here, so I'm assuming you guys like that I have them placing somewhere in the top 3, right?
Right.
Let's move on to our actual division picks, right? My quick divisional picks. I got Cardinals obviously at number 1 because I already said that. I got the Rams at 2, 49ers at 3, and the Seahawks at 4. Now the only thing that will not change my mind is Seahawks at 4. You could convince me any of the other 3, but Seahawks is definitely at 4. If Stafford's elbow is a problem, I would bump the Rams down to 3 and the 49ers up to 2. Whether Trey Lance or Jimmy G is playing, right? I'm not. I don't believe in a John Wolford led offense. I don't care like
Mhm.
who's on that offense, right? Like, yeah, Cooper Cup's great, but who's getting the ball to Cooper Cup if Matt Stafford's not there?
Mhm.
That's kind of where I'm at on that. So, Cardinals 1. You could argue with me on that, and I'd be like, yeah, you could make an argument for the Rams or the 49ers, but I got the Cardinals at 1, Rams 2, 49ers 3, and Seahawks at 4. Now, if any 49ers fan gets mad, I have you guys getting like 9 to 10 wins, right? Like I have this division very close at the top, and then like a 2 or 3 win team at the bottom.
No, I agree with you. That's the exact pick I would have, and I'm a homer at times. I'll say it, but if it's a bad roster, I'll say it. But heading into that Steve Wilkes year, that Josh Rosen season, I had us going 5-11. No, and I even had fans before the season. There's no way we're going 5-11. I'm like, have you looked at this fucking roster? We haven't added anybody worth a damn other than Sam Bradford, and that's not worth a damn. I'm not afraid to call it how I see it, and I do think the sky is the limit with this team. And sure, I mean, if they win 12 games, 11, I'm not sure exactly where I'm at yet. I'll break down each game schedule. I think on our podcast we'll do that, Jackie,
Yeah.
this week and kind of come up with a determining number. But as long as you can keep Kyler Murray healthy, that's the number one overall goal. He wasn't totally healthy at the end of last year, wasn't totally healthy the year before, and that's both when our collapses happened, as well as injuries elsewhere with spots on the team where the depth just wasn't where it needed to be. So I'm hoping Kime made all those adjustments, and hopefully this defense surprises a little bit because I really have no concerns about this offense right now. There might be some depth issues here and there depending on if Beecham gets hurt, who's going to fill in there? Can Josh Jones handle that? Switching from the left to right side, running back room. If James Conner goes down, and Daryl Williams and Eno and Jonathan Ward carry the load. I mean, there's still, while we love the running back room, most of them are question marks. I mean, Keontae Ingram hasn't taken a snap in the league. Eno's only, played a handful of games. Other than Daryl Williams and, James Conner, neither of those guys are, a guy that you're going to predict that's going to lead the league in rushing or anything like that. So I do think that, for the most part, Prime did a really good job filling the holes, the areas of need but in the NFL, you know how it goes. Once the injuries hit, they stack up. It's inevitable. So it all comes down to how these guys come in and perform. Because there are a lot of guys on this roster who we love that we just have not seen it on the field in an NFL game under the bright lights of the regular season just yet.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like it's going to be a dogfight between either us, San Francisco, or LA.
Mm-hmm.
LA is probably one quarterback injury away from disaster. San Francisco, they're still trying to figure out their quarterback situation. And for us, I feel like we're one elite corner away from being a real Super Bowl contender. So we'll see. We'll see whose roster can stack up against the other. But
Yep.
you know, it's a dogfight. It's always been a dogfight in the NFC West, and it's any given Sunday because we've had shittier rosters beat better teams. So we'll see.
Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I would like to let you guys know that 11 of the last 20 Super Bowls, the NFC representative has always been an NFC West team in 11 of the 20.
Mm-hmm.
When I counted it out, I think I counted it out as 4 Seattle.
And they've all won one except for us, so
Nope.
we're overdue.
Nope, it was four. It was
Exactly.
four. It was 4 Rams, 3 Seattle, 3 49ers, and 1 Cardinal.
Mm-hmm.
Was what I had at maybe it was 2 I don't remember. 2 49ers? No, 2 49ers because they played the Chiefs and the Ravens and they lost both. Right? Then you had the Seahawks play. Who'd they play? They played the Patriots, the Broncos, the Steelers.
Yeah.
Those are 3. I don't think there's one more in there, is there?
No, that's it.
Okay, so we're at 5. The Cardinals played the Steelers at 6. And then the Rams have played the Bengals.
Okay, yeah, the Niners
New
haven't won
England.
one, but they've got 5 Super Bowls, so fuck them.
Yeah. They played the Bengals, the Patriots, and then Kurt Warner went to 2 in the early 2000s, right?
Mm-hmm. The
Yes.
Rams won one,
2001.
lost
Yeah, 1 lost. Okay, 4. Okay, so they've been to 10, not 11. My bad. Either way, half of the last 20 years, right, have been an NFC West representative. So we'll see if that happens again. I still call it University of Phoenix Stadium. It's not what it is anymore. It's State Farm Stadium. Or did they change it from State Farm Stadium? I'm pretty sure it's State Farm Stadium still, isn't it?
It's State Farm
Yeah,
Stadium
cool.
now. Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I was getting the right name of our beloved home that we call State Farm Stadium in Glendale. It's a nice stadium. I really like our stadium a lot. It's pretty nice.
It's
Uh,
aging pretty well, yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
coaching basketball games every summer there is a glorious experience. It's amazing being down there, just in the center with like big screens around you and whatnot. So, yeah. Off of that, last thing before I let you guys go, so it seems that we all agree that we have the Cardinals winning the division, right? I guess we got a bit of homerism here. Is there any
Mhm.
room in that second and third spot, or do we think it's like the Rams for the second spot?
Oh yeah,
No, there's
injuries
room.
happen.
It's a
Yeah.
dogfight between San Francisco and the Rams.
But I mean, like, if you had to pick, right? Like, who are you picking? Are you picking the 49ers or the Rams?
Oh, the Rams all day.
Rams.
Okay, gotcha. So we pretty much agree Cardinals, Rams, 49ers, and
Yeah.
Without a
Seahawks
doubt,
Seahawks
Seattle
at
finishing
Seahawks
dead
at
last.
4. And I guess we're agreeing that there's a battle between 1 and 3, 1 through 3 there, right?
Right.
Yeah, I can see all. I can see each of the three teams finish with 10 wins. I could also see San Francisco possibly taking a step back, depending on what happens with their quarterback. And then the Rams, I don't see the Rams taking too much of a step back. I think they have the personnel in place to. They're definitely the favorites to win it, and I don't know what the odds say if the Cardinals are second or third, but I do think that it is close to where. I mean, it really could switch. They all could be within 2 or 3 wins from each other. Or I think if the one variable would be possibly the Niners falling back a little bit. The Cardinals' offense, I think, is going to be too good. Even if their defense is, bottom 10 or something, this offense should still win a lot of games.
I definitely agree with you. So that pretty much wraps it up for us. We're about to hit the hour 40-minute mark. Jackie, Mac, thank you so much for coming out. This is going to be the first episode of the 4th season of the Head Couch Analyst Show, so it's awesome that you guys keep coming back. I always love talking football with you guys. I think the most fun one was the one where I randomly came in during draft day. That was a fun one. That was a good time.
Yeah, we always
That
appreciate
was.
you having us on.
Yeah, dude. No, you guys are so much fun to talk to. One of these days, one of the games that I go to has got to be one of the games that you guys go to, or like vice versa. One of the games you go to, I have
Yeah.
to go to. It's a good time. Going to
Yes,
Cardinals
Sanders,
games.
buy me beer.
Buy you beer? Yeah, I could buy. Hey,
Buy me beer.
maybe you should be here in Arizona instead of Virginia. How about that?
If you buy me beer, I'm down.
I mean, hey, if you're down here, I will get you a beer. I'd be more than happy with that. So, you can find the show at HC Analysts on Twitter. You can find me at HC_J Sanders. This is of course going to be on YouTube, which is how you are viewing it. Um, you guys want to plug yourselves at all?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you can find our podcast. It's the Redbird Red Zone podcast. Basically on all platforms. We're primarily on Twitter. That's the RBR podcast. And then you can find me also on Instagram doing Arizona Cardinals fantasy football. Takes all year long. That's all AZ Cards FFN.
Yeah, and you can find me on Twitter at JSanDiego. That is with 2 O's. You can also find me writing for AZ Sports Underground, and I will be doing a live show with Let's Talk Sports every Friday at 7 EST.
Yeah, and then we're actually, for just real quick before we go, we're having the Cardinal Rule on our podcast this week for our season preview as well. So we're excited for that. I know if you're a Cardinal fan listening, we have not made that announcement yet. So you guys are hearing it first and foremost right now, and we're excited to have him on. He kills it with all of his YouTube videos, every single day, or anytime there's a Cardinal news breaking, he's always dropping some knowledge. So definitely, hopefully, you guys can join us there as well.
Yes, looking forward to seeing everybody there.
Alrighty, awesome. Well, thank you so much. And as for the rest of you that are listening, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night. See you next time.
Boom.
Bye.